You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
2023 was a roller coaster ride in retail automotive, and there's a lot to unpack, from the challenges of the supply chain to EVs leading us into what could be a drastically different future. Today, we're reflecting on the past year and diving into forecasts for the year ahead. We're pleased to be joined by the president and CEO of AutoForecast Solutions, Mr. Joe McCabe. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Joe, to join us on the show.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure.
Sure. So let's start out here. What stands out the most to you when reflecting on the automotive industry in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is this early adopter apex for electrification. When we're in forecasting mode, we're always trying to find out when have the early adopters adopted, and now when are we going to get to the real potential pain points of mass market adoption and sort of flatten the market. I think we've reached it. I think the people that bought the Teslas bought them, the Rivians. I'm not slating the vehicles. This idea that BEVs are the only solution never resonated with us. They are a solution. Not every consumer has to consume this. It's a governmental and environmental driven initiative. I think the next 3 years are going to be interesting because it's going to show where the idea of higher prices, range anxiety, other hurdles will have to get cleared in order to keep this momentum going. But I think we finally reached it, and I think we're going to see some interesting times ahead.
So do you think it's going to be kind of a chipping away at ICE vehicles just over a certain period of time, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, where we'll see a little more each year of EVs? Or do you think we've seen what we're going to get for quite some time in the EV sector?
I just don't think we'll have this hockey stick growth anymore. I think that we look at the market as an elastic market, and the idea is we push this elastic wall so hard to get to BEVs, it's going to recoil. And now we're going to say, well, why don't we look at electrification? Why don't we look at hybridization? Hybridization always has been a really valid way of getting there. There's a Toyota metric out there that says the raw materials to make one BEV, I can make 6 plug-in hybrids, or I can make 90 standard hybrids.
Wow.
So if your goal was net carbon zero, I want to make 90 people move in a better direction than just one, and the same amount of resources, which is a big hurdle right this second. So this idea that I think what's going to see is you're going to see more pushing on hybrids, a full product portfolio. BEVs will stay in the mix. You're going to see a delay on high volume BEVs. We're already seeing the manufacturers dialing back their programs, putting more electrification and more extended range vehicles in their portfolio, not just pure BEV. So we're going in the right path. We will see a muted forecast for pure BEV, but I think in the long run, you're going to see it get back. But we're 3 or 4 years away from that, again, that new hockey stick growth.
Yeah. With all of these great minds in the automotive industry, how did they get it so wrong?
Yeah, it wasn't getting it wrong. There was an agenda to push, and you got to push. You got to back that horse 100% of the time to get a certain market share. Now we're going to approach 8%, 9% of all light vehicles sold in the United States to be BEV. That's a Herculean task if you think about that. That's a lot. But in terms of the population size, it's not. So we're going to get you to 10, 11, and 12 and things of that nature. But if you don't push it, if you don't constantly push the messaging, no one's going to buy into it. So people bought onto it. And look, I'm not saying BEVs are a bad solution. They're phenomenal vehicles, but they are for only specific consumers. That's it's like Ford saying, buy all my Fords. Why aren't you buying all Fords? Because there's a selection out there.
Right.
And this is just one of the many selections out there. It became more of a, you're either for me or against me conversation, which I'm a fan of. And you don't have to be against it. It just might not be the right fit for you and your family's transportation needs.
Sure. And do you think at the core of that is really range anxiety? Because for the most part, the average consumer drives less than 50 miles a day in their car. And yet, obviously, all of these EVs get 250, 350 miles on a solid charge, or on a full charge. It just seems as though maybe the perception out there among consumers is that, oh, no, I don't want to get into that situation where I can't charge my vehicle and I'm stuck someplace. The reality is that just isn't the case for so many consumers. They wouldn't necessarily fall into that category, right? Is it more of the fear mongering out there from?
So we look at electrification. There's 4 major hurdles. There's cost, which is the biggest one still. When there's an ICE variant and there's a BE variant that's more expensive, cost is the biggest problem when money is not cheap these days.
Right.
High interest rates make it very difficult to make a $900 a month payment just because you want to have a battery electric vehicle. Number one. Number two is range. Number three is going to be infrastructure. Number four is the raw materials. But what happened with the range is that everyone's pushed this idea, well, it's education, right? If we just educate people on what this vehicle can do, then you're going to see BEVs a better solution. But no one's talking about the time value of money of my personal situation. I know I'm going to have plenty of charging. I know that one time or two times I have to do a far drive, I may have to stop. And if I have to stop for 30 minutes versus stop for 3 minutes, that sometimes weighs on my decision-making process. You're right. Every EV coming out today, minimum 150, 200 miles of range on one charge.
Right.
But price has to come down first.
But
when the price differential is there, range will come second.
When I spoke to one dealer, he said, the difference between an EV and a ICE vehicle is probably around $12,000, $10,000 to $12,000 difference for kind of car to car, a similar type car, right? And he said, when you factor in the gas savings on filling up a full tank on an SUV, which can be, $75 to $100 nowadays, versus not having that charge every week, because you're talking about $350, $400 a month, then actually on a month-to-month basis, the EV could conceivably be less for that family to run than the ICE vehicle. And then when you factor in the savings in terms of the maintenance on the car, it's also less than trying to maintain oil changes and tune-ups and everything else that's going to go along with that car.
Yeah, on paper, it makes a lot of sense. Again, that time value money of if I do have to stop, I don't want to stop for half hour, 45 minutes for that one random time. That sticks in people's issue.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Do you think it's still that whole range anxiety situation, assuming that the money part of it works out, that people are still saying, I hear what you're saying, but I still don't want to get caught out someplace.
I think if the prices come down to comparable, I think it's going to open a lot more people to understand what's my next value add, which is going to be, yes, there really shouldn't be a range anxiety. We've talked to many other people on the other side of the coin to go, hey, I go to northern Michigan. It took me 5 hours to get there. It should have taken me 2. I had to go to my family to Florida. It took me 3 days. It should take me 1. We've heard both. There's detractors and there's both sides of the coin. I think the number one right now is the actual price differential. But if you really look at the baseline, it's taking people out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's saying you're going to change how you work with your life. And some people just don't like to be out of their comfort zone. So one solution is extended range or a hybrid.
Yeah.
Hey, give me a gas engine. Let me plug it in. Let me go to the gas station. Let me get it. And if you can convince me electrification is a solution, I'll get there over time because I may plug it in a little more than I was expecting to. And go, hey, I don't have to go to the gas station that often. That is going to take a very, very long time to move a mass.
Yeah. When
you're talking about, we're doing a victory lap right now because we had a million sales of BEVs last month.
Yeah.
That is 0.41%, the entire U.S. population. That is this much.
Yeah.
We have to get this needle moved forward, and it's going to take a long time to get people out of their comfort zones. I couldn't agree with you more. The vehicles are so much better now than they were just 10 or even 5 years ago. Range is not a huge issue, but it is a detractor when cost is there. It just piles on their rationale for not buying it.
Sure. What role do you see government policies playing in shaping the landscape in this area?
I think they're going to dial back a little. This idea they're handing out money, I get it, but we're handing out money while doing anti-Chinese sentiment, and it's a very difficult game to play of going, we need all our supply chain here, we need it here, but do me a favor, don't go drill over there. So we have a lot of talking out of both sides of the mouth on the government side, which makes it very difficult to get anything done. Automotive, I said 100 times, is a glacial speed market. We're talking about vehicles today that will be designed today that won't be built for 3 years from today, but we're forcing people down a path to right now.
Right.
There's a lot of push and pull in this industry that's making this difficult. I think government's involvement should be more about, more incentivizing, but putting more of this infrastructure in. The infrastructure issue for charging has to be a industry and governmental solution, not just automotive industry.
Right.
And government needs to say, I got to practice what I'm preaching. I need to buy an electrified fleet, but they're not buying electrified fleets either. So it's do as I say, not as I do. In some cases, people can't afford them. If you're really going to push it, then instead of giving $7,500, give a lot more. Don't penalize manufacturers for not reaching a carbon footprint. Put that money and say, I was going to penalize you, but instead take it off the sticker price.
Yeah.
Because I need consumers to consume this.
Yeah.
So it's, It's a long road. There's going to be a lot of peaks, a lot of valleys. Government intervention is, I would say, it's neutral at best from our perspective on how it's moving the needle.
Okay. What other things are you watching that may be challenges for dealers in the at least in the first quarter of 2024?
Getting back to sort of the old norm. I don't think the old norm's going to be here. The old day of 90 days of trucks and 60 days of cars on your lot, and then putting money on the hood at the end of the year doesn't make any sense when new entrants don't even have dealers. I think we're going to level off at like a 50 to 55 day inventory. The idea is to maximize profit. The only way you maximize profit for a vehicle is to have less available. Force people to order them. So that whole build to order strategy that we learned over COVID is an important model. I think there's a lot of risk if a dealership decides to go wholeheartedly into an all BEV solution. They have to look at how they're going to make their nut also, and they have to have a balanced portfolio. To me, the manufacturer of the balanced portfolio is going to have the less amount of pain. They'll have short bursts of success, and I think the dealers have to really look at that. They have to really rein in this idea of 84-month and 96-month terms. I mean, I'm fearful we're a few years away from another automotive bubble where a lot of people are going to be upside down on their vehicles because they were forced to buy them at sticker or market adjustment over a longer period of times, and the value's not there. So it's difficult for the dealerships right this second to really navigate, but sort of eyes wide open, not buying sort of the rhetoric about this all EV future, and really being a balanced portfolio for the consumers to consume.
Sure. We have heard from some of the credit bureaus out there that auto loan payments, or deficiencies, I should say, are way up. And having said that, where do we stand on leasing? It would seem to me that these car companies would subvent these leasing programs once again to get these cars rolling again at an affordable payment for their consumers.
Yeah, leasing's an interesting animal when you're trying to push a BEV, because now you're going to shove that ICE product back in the market in 3 years.
Yeah.
This is where the whole dynamic of what's the agenda? If I'm trying to move to electrification and I push leasing right this second, all of a sudden I have a glut in 24, 36, 30 months, 39 months. I have to move that metal, and now I have all this ICE product to move. So what is the real value of it? That to me then says where residuals are going to really just stink. So then all of a sudden, leasing isn't always the best solution because my car prices are way too high because my residuals are really going to be painful in 39 months.
Sure.
I'm pushing a non-ICE variant agenda. So that's what's making, I think, to me, leasing, although a very attractive model for all the things that it has to offer, a wild card, because the idea of what residuals are going to be in the next year, few years, it's a dartboard right this second.
Yeah. But what about leasing as it relates to the EVs? I mean, it would seem to me that
the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, really opened the door and said you don't have to build a vehicle here. Hyundai's really capitalizing on this.
Yeah.
If I lease it and I call it a commercial vehicle, I can give that consumer that $7,500 and not even build that vehicle here.
Yeah.
So for leasing from a BEV strategy, I think is a very smart strategy because it gets people involved. It lets them try it. It lets them say, I got to commit 3 years, maybe this whole thing, and then see where I'm at. And the incentive that the government's putting on top of it really adds a sweetness factor.
Sure.
You just got to convince people to get in that dealership and buy into that BEV strategy.
That's right. That's right. I know this may not be in your wheelhouse, but I'd like to get your take on it. What's your feeling about this partnership between Amazon and Hyundai? Any concerns there?
Concerns. I don't have any concerns. I think it's another outlet. Look, new entrance vehicles are allowed to come in and not have a dealership network. They can play by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
That's a way to go to build the market up. It's a way. Look, I don't think the dealership network has fear of being eliminated anytime soon. I think that relationship still needs to be established. I don't have enough intel on how the relationship is going to Amazon, but I would hope they'd still involve a dealership network in sort of the distribution path. Again, I haven't gone into the research on it. So I think it's just another way. I don't think it's going to be the end-all, be-all way of doing it because you've had the Carvanas out there in the world and things like that that had some success and don't have 100% success. So there's still a need for the dealership network out there. It's going to add some complexity to it. I don't think it's going to put the entire market though on its ear. Yeah, for sure. Joe McCabe, President and CEO of AutoForecast Solutions, thank you so much for stopping by. We very much appreciate it. I know that our viewers will get a lot out of your visit with us. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.